read 9 books in September. 9. I have no idea how that happened because I was trying to take it slow. I had some of these books that I was moving so slow because I was taking notes. I was soaking it in. I was sitting with the ideas, while others I binged so hard when I got the alert that I got an arc or my Libby was ready. Sometimes I stayed up a little too late, but I'm doing something a little different this month. I am including my immediate post-read reactions to a lot of these books because right after I finished them, I wanted to capture it, and here's why. I binge read a lot of these books, and when you binge read or listen on 2x, details can fade fast, or I get busy. Life happens, and suddenly I'm sitting down at the end of this month trying to film this recap and going, okay, wait, what happened and which ones did I read and how did I feel right after? So this time I captured my thoughts right after finishing each one. And this raw, immediate reaction, when everything is still fresh and I'm still feeling all the feels from the journey that I went on from reading it, I think it's going to make a much more authentic recap. And it's the way I am going to remember everything that happened from all 9 books. Let me know how you feel about it. Sometimes it's actually not as deep because I have to sit with it a little bit more to really unpack what I heard and feel differently sometimes after I've sat with it for a little bit, and either the star rating grows or it could go down also because I think, wait, I didn't like this thing about it. Whatever it may be, grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever you're drinking, and let's dive into my September reading recap. Welcome back to Amy Ann Reads, everyone. I'm Amy, and if you're wondering how someone reads 9 books in a month when half of them were some slow, thoughtful reads and some were my bingey reads, well, you know that I love my audiobooks and you know that I love reading them wherever I go on my commute, on my travels, wherever it may be. Everything is contributing to my wild, diverse knowledge base, one book at a time. So all genres, all types, bring them in. I'm going to start with the books that I just absolutely binged and consumed me because there were so many this month that I read and absolutely adored and recommend from the top of the rooftops. These are going to be the ones that are the just one more chapter, and I stayed up way too late and my eyes were puffy because the emotions that I went through as I journeyed through these were just, whew. First one I'm going to start with is going to be Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. Here is how I felt right after. I just finished Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and if you love Divine Rivals or you love Romantasy in general, it was so good. Like, it just took you on this journey, this emotional journey. It captivated you while not being too complex, even though the world building was fantastic. And it brings you into this mythical / god realm, but also mixing with mortals and all the themes and all the people that come into it, or the gods that come into it. It is so good. I don't want to spoil it because it's only been out for a week, maybe, but it is absolutely worth going and getting. The audio is fantastic. At the end, there is an excerpt of what changed from the first draft to the final draft and why it was so important. And I can't believe some of my favorite characters were not in there to begin with. So just go read it and you're welcome. Let's talk about it. This is going to be my monthly recap for September, but I was supposed to be doing other things and binged it. So it was so good. So I just finished Fearful by Lauren Roberts. It is her last novella, I believe, for the Powerless series. And while I did not love Fearless, if you have seen my other review, here is why. I loved the rest of it. I just could not love Fearless, but I was hoping that Fearful would become like this kind of redemption, pull it back together, give me the more gratifying ending that I wanted, or more of a story to it of why it was the way that it was. And this one was a slow start. It has this unique perspective from death, and so it is a third-party perspective, and that I thought was really, really unique. It was just very slow to get to the characters that I knew and loved and came to be invested in. But once it did pick up, I did come to appreciate that it was a little unique of a shift, and there are spoilers. So spoiler alert, spoiler. I thought it was really interesting and fascinating to think of it, especially there was this one part that said, it is not death that takes away, but life that gives up. And it's just a very different twist on how we think about death and think about the different elements when death approaches us. But it's actually, could it be that life is giving up? And to personify those things were a change in my mindset of how I thought about things. So that was kind of cool. It's also interesting to see it from a divine being's perspective of how silly humans are, the fragility of humans, how we think we can control things, how we can do things on our own. It is a silly thing that we think that we control things when we all know that we don't. And it also was interesting to think about different colors of our souls, because I did not think I was going to come to like Blair, given the person that she was and the things that she did. But as you see more things uncovered about her past and the people in her family and things that she has gone through, you come to appreciate, and maybe not appreciate her, but you come to feel a little more for them. And I think that is a story for life of how we need to remind ourselves that even those people that are hard to love have a story and have something that we can relate to and see the humanity in them. And even if we're not going to be besties, we can still give them a little grace. Not to say people should be really mean, crappy people just because they've gone through stuff, because we know people that have gone through stuff that are actually really great, kind, joyful people as well. So not to give any sort of pass to people, but let's just give people the benefit of the doubt. Some people could just be having a really bad day. Some people could just be going through something really, really tough in their lives. So let's just give people a little bit of grace, extend a little bit of kindness. That is something I thought about. And as these different colors come about, I think there are people that are like really mean to the core, but there are also these in-betweens, and even those mean people can interweave with the other people that are more joyful and that are filled with kindness, and there's a mingling of things that can happen. So can we be the difference in other people's lives? That is something that I have taken away. And we all have different reactions to death, to accepting our fate in different things. And it was also a fascinating look into that. So it is a much more theoretical and, I don't know, philosophizing of life and death kind of book, but it was fascinating in that sense. And I also was hoping that there would be like a better end, a better wrap up for Kit. And I was hoping for this happy ending for Kit, and even for Mara, for the things that she went through, even though we don't know exactly what that was. But those weren't in the cards. I already said spoiler, right? So it still wasn't what I wanted, but it gave me more of the insight into Kit and all that he was planning and why he was planning the things and how he reacted to things. And then a little perspective into Blair and Lenny, which were really sweet and made me laugh. And I enjoyed it. So do I recommend it? Yes. Did I absolutely love it like the other two books? No, but it was definitely better than Fearless, and gave me a good look. So I just finished The Take by Kelly Yang. I devoured it because I love her middle of grade books. And if you've been here for any amount of time, you know that I rave about them, okay? Because I relate to them in so many different ways. And this is her adult debut. It is called The Take. It is premise. Here we go. Maggie is a broke young Asian American writer that is down in the dumps
I'm not going to spoil it, but her life is kind of falling apart and she really needs to succeed. And there's Ingrid, who is a famous white Hollywood producer. Her career is also kind of teetering on the edge. And so she offers an irresistible deal to find someone $3 million, an exclusive mentorship and access for 10 experimental medical transfusions to reverse her aging. And Maggie is that girl that comes in, takes that opportunity for that access and that financial freedom as an child of immigrants who have been hardworking and struggling and needing all sorts of money to pay for those standard health things, right? And she wants this to support her parents to be able to finally be free for herself, to pursue her dream, making those writing dreams come true. So what starts as this professional transaction, exchanging blood, quickly becomes this like complicated web of power plays and deception and uncovering different secrets in each of their lives. And they both have to ask, like, what am I willing to sacrifice in order to succeed? And success looks different for both of them. So for me as a mom in my 40s and as a child of immigrant parents, there were so many hard-hitting things that spoke to me. And regardless of race, this was such a relevant discussion about women aging and the discrimination that lies there and opportunities that are provided based on whether your race or your privilege, whatever that may look like. It could be your race, it could be your social economic status, it could be where you are born, it could be all of these things. And the extent to which people will go or the things that they will do to get ahead and put themselves first. It is just a fascinating read in that sense. I really, really liked this discussion around youth and exploring how much we would be willing to do for that success and to squash whatever insecurities we might have by grasping onto this potential like life-saving thing, right? However, it is also a great lesson to learn because just because you get younger on the outside or even on your inside and your innards and stuff like that, or get more money, it does not take away the problems or the insecurities that you had. And if anything, they do say mo money, mo problems. So it could even add more. And you just have to know how to handle the things that come into your life and what are you willing to sacrifice? Your health, your values, what? And as a mom, I'm imagining Maggie as my daughter and going, what the heck are you doing? Your health is not something you could ever, ever, ever trade away. But some people, out of desperation, right? Those are the cards that they are dealt. And so it's just an amazing look to think about what would I do? What would I tell my friend if they were thinking about it? All that stuff. Now I'm going into spoiler alert, because it does not come out until March, friends. So don't read on or don't listen. If you have not read it yet, skip ahead. I will put in the chapters, okay, so that you can skip ahead. But here are some of the things that I did not love. I didn't feel like I got closure on this first part. There's this first little bit with Estelle and her boyfriend, and it just felt like it came and went really, really fast. And maybe it was a statement to just say she left it behind her forever, but it just felt like it came and went really, really fast. I also didn't love that Ingrid's insecurities just kept coming up, the same insecurity over and over and over, which is the young women, right? That her husband was nice to, like every single thing that anybody did, it came back to that. And it was just in your face. And I know that that is a huge part of her wanting to be young, but I couldn't see her as not a villain. And I really wanted to. I wanted to see the multifacetedness of her, and the more things she did, the more things she said, the more people she interacted with, I just could not like her at all or see the humanity in her. I will say that my heart broke when her husband says this one thing, which is, I didn't want her to hate you. And if you read it, you will know what I'm talking about. My heart broke on that. So I did empathize with her in that.
The Charmed Library. As a book lover, this was such a fun going down imagination train ride. Even if I wasn't like, oh, this is a 5-star read that is going to stick with me forever. But the premise is that there is this charmed library where characters can come to life from books. Some of them you're not going to want to mix together, but some people have to learn that the hard way. This is like people from way back when and some of your favorite classics. And there's also books turned into movies. So there are these characters that come out, and to be able to live in a life where you bring out your favorite fantasy characters or perhaps mistakenly bring out the ones that are really, really scary, it's just a fun read of magical books that can take you into these realms and move you in different ways, and found family and the ways in which books can heal you as well. So, was it something that's going to stay with me forever and I'm going to keep rereading it every year? No, but it's absolutely a fun book that I absolutely recommend. Let's talk about the books that slowed me down. I took my time with each of them because there were so many thoughtful things that I wanted to sit with and walk through and not just speed read through. And these are books that I may go back and dissect little pieces at a time. I had the great privilege of reading The Poet and the Silk Girl as an arc, and I get to talk to the author Satsuki Ina, and I'm super excited about it because this is a memoir of her and her parents. She took the diaries and the different stories that she had of growing up and seeing her parents and the trauma that they lived through because they were living in America. They were citizens, and in World War II, they were rounded up, as were many, many Japanese Americans, just by the ethnicity that they were, and sent to internment camps. And that is where Satsuki was born. Can you just imagine, one, her parents being ripped away from everything that they knew, taken away everything that they had, and put in this camp, even separated from family and friends, and not knowing what was going to happen and having their identity essentially stripped away from them as well, because they thought that this government and this country that they lived in would protect them as citizens. But all of that and all of that comfort and security is taken away in an instant. Can you just imagine that? I cannot. My parents were not here to experience it at that time. And I would love to have that conversation with my dad, especially, who was born right after the war in Japan and experienced post-war Japan. And I can't imagine that either, because these are really hard times, guys. But I digress. So back to The Poet and the Silk Girl. Satsuki was born in an internment camp in a little cell. Like, I cannot fathom the hardship and how you grow up in that way, and to have parents that are really stressed and trying to do all these things and have no money, and going through all of that as an infant and a toddler and separated from your father. And I don't want to spoil these things, but they were eye openers for me because, like I said, I did not live through any of that. I have lived a fairly sheltered life as a Japanese American, and my parents came as immigrants from Japan later than the war. So these are very different experiences that are hard to read and will be hard to read for a lot of people. But these are still very relevant concepts to this day, because even if it's not Japanese Americans, there are immigrants that are going through injustice, that are being put away just for the color of their skin, or going through different racial discrimination because of the color of their skin. And Asian Americans are going through this still as well. There are so many things that we need to read from this, to understand from this, and stand up for what's right, even if it is not directly the people group that you are a part of. There are things that we can speak up for and that we need to speak up for. And I'm so grateful to be able to speak to Satsuki Ina in a future interview that is coming up. So pay attention, subscribe if you haven't already, because you are not going to want to miss that. She is an advocate for the Japanese Americanness, immigrants, like all things justice, and she works in trauma. And this is a part of her, and I cannot wait to speak to her about all the different experiences and things that have changed her life, and the way that she is using all of that for the better and to change the future, because we do not want history to repeat itself. So let's be the good in this world. Go read it. So I just finished Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and if you are thinking of doing anything creative whatsoever, you need to read this book, because
It gave me the aha moment of, this is why I do the creative things I do, because it channels and it brings me joy and it helps create wonder, and also reminding me that I'm not doing it for the success. There's no guaranteed success, but there is a reason why I'm doing these things for my own soul and out of curiosity. And it's okay that I have so many different passions, because that is my soul trying to figure out what are the things that give me joy. And it is all about the pursuit of joy for yourself, that you matter, that there are things that you can explore, and they could amount to quote unquote nothing in the end, but it's not nothing if it is filling your soul, if it is filling your cup, and it is helping you show up in ways that you want to. So there's so much to this. I need to go back and unpack all the bookmarks that I put in there, but it's so good. You got to go listen to it.
Heard was a book on our list from Kelly Yang that is part of my family book club. If you've heard me talk about family book club, I am reading with my kids, so it took us about a week. But if you have teens or tweens, or you're thinking about giving devices to your kids or allowing them to use social media, this is a must read. You need to go read it with them, or maybe you read it by yourself. But if you read it with them, it is a great conversation starter. It talks about how kids can get sucked into the algorithm or the things that get thrown at them, and they don't understand it, but they just keep swiping and scrolling, and time goes by. And we as adults with fully formed brains, supposedly, have a hard time with that, right? You see people just crossing the street on their phones all the time, not looking up to see if cars are coming. That is a pet peeve of mine. If that is you, please be careful and stop when you are crossing streets or whatever and put your phones away. But especially for our kids, when they start asking for devices, when you read this story with them, at least when I read this story with my kids, we had a great conversation about why I do not want to give them phones for a long time. Because there is so much that gets unlocked of, there could be bullying, there could be things that they're exposed to, there could be just time that goes down the drain because you get sucked into these things. And I do not want them to live on screens. I want them to be able to talk to people and not just text each other right next to each other, right? These are all things that we are growing up with in this day and age, and our kids are growing up with even more, that we need to be aware of. And if we can have great conversation starters as we are reading this in a story, this is fabulous. So I think it is must reads as a family or for your kids. 5 stars. And we also read Front Desk, which is a very popular series by Kelly Yang. And I already talked about her adult debut and why I loved that. But she is the master of talking about deep topics and bringing awareness to things, and conversation starters within families. So I absolutely love her books. I have not read all of them, but Front Desk is a series. I think there's 4 in it and maybe more to come. I'm not sure. Maybe 4 is the end, but I've only read 1. But that all of her books have this immigration, child of immigrant story that I resonate deeply with, because there is this, even if you are in this country and you are a citizen, you might have very different experiences. And if you are an immigrant, you have very different experiences. And to be able to experience that a little bit, even in the form of a story, and understand that even as kids, you have the right to speak up, but there is a skill in learning how and when to speak up and when to stand up for injustices. You experience these things in a very different light, especially as an Asian American. I have experienced these things as well, where I get treated differently from some people that are from different races, different socioeconomic statuses, different gender, even because I am a woman, right? There are just different experiences that we have. And to be able to see that in a middle grade story is absolutely fabulous. And just go read it. Great conversations to have as a family. Here's what I loved about my September reads. Every single one of these 9 books added something completely different to my brain space, whether it was a Japanese perspective on things that I have never lived through and hopefully will never live through, or it was this romantasy world that just took me on this huge adventure of powers and gods and whole different world that I wanted to live in. There were so many different speeds, different realms, different ways that I was sitting with them, but they were so valuable in each of their own ways. A mix of fast, a mix of slow, challenging, entertaining, made me cry, made my heart break, all of them worth the time and all of them adding something meaningful to what I know and how I think. And I hope it does to you too. Let me know in the comments what you read in September, which ones were surprising to you, which ones were amazing 5-star, 6-star, 10-star reads for you. Any books that really made you slow down, annotate the heck out of it. I want to know all of that. And let me know if you love the immediate reactions. If you do, let's keep that going. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you enjoyed this recap, I have many more recaps. You can go to prior months. It's not isolated to that month. It's just what I read. So head here. See you in the next video.